I don't hear anything so far. We'll see.
Earbuds then.
Okay. Okay, so Carrie Selden, you are a chemist and you're also a writer for a pharmaceutical company. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then today, I don't know anything about you. I just saw you had posted something about breast implant illness and I contacted you. So just before we went on, are you part of BISA?
You know what? I am. Well, I'm not part of it, but luckily enough, I'm going to be in a fashion show in 2 weeks, and Maria Dimitro is going to be there.
Okay, is that the Catwalks and Confidence that was on your page?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's going to be a basically all of us models had either breast implant illness or breast cancer. And it's going to be in Palm Harbor, Florida on April 2nd. And part of the proceeds will go to Empower Hermans and then also BISA.
Aw, and tell everyone what BISA is.
It's Breast Implant Safety Alliance. And Maria Dimitro, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She is the founder of that. And she will actually be at the show. So I'm actually anxious to meet her.
And so this is to make women more aware of probably what led us all down the rabbit hole is self-confidence, most of us, I would have to say. I mean, really.
Yeah,
so,
a friend of mine, my friend Denise, that is the one that is doing it. She, a little story about her, after she removed her implants, she was in A cup. And, she had a really hard time finding bras and had a lot of tears in the, dressing room because either she was told that we don't have that kind of a cup, or if they did have it, it was like a training bra.
Training bra.
Yeah. So she basically, like on her site, she's kind of research found all of the best A cup bras. And she did just do A cup bras for a while, but now she has ventured out to B, C, and D cups. So it's kind of a fashion show for her bra line, female gangs, of their clothing line. And then we have a local boutique called J9 Boutique, and that will also be clothing from there.
That's great. There's also a Facebook group called the Itty Bitties.
Oh,
but I mean, because people don't think about it. I mean, you pay and go from flat to fluffy, and then you go from fluffy back to flat. And sometimes it's hard to deal with. So now there's an itty bitty group out there. I love it.
That is nice. It's, it lets you know that you're not alone. And, I know we all kind of go back to the reason why we got implants in the first place, but I think we can all say, hopefully, that we love ourselves even better after our horrible.
I do. Yep.
Well, I will take whatever God gives me. And if I end up, losing more weight and I look like a wall, I really don't care.
Yeah, well, I'm back to being the four-eyed, freckle-faced beanpole freak that I was always. That's what I was called in school, four-eyed, freckle-faced beanpole freak, because I'm built like a runner. So when I got the boobs, then you had like a Baywatch body when I had the boobs, and then now I'm back to being like the little, like I saw on a show or on some clip, he's like, you don't have any curves, he was saying to some girl, and he called her a ironing board. You look like an ironing board. And I thought, see, people constantly criticize and say, how did you end up down the rabbit hole? Well, it's because of stuff like that. It's society. Yeah. Absolutely. So were you totally healthy when you ventured in and got your implants?
I had just turned 20 years old. Oh yeah, I just turned 20 years old. I was very athletic, very, didn't have any, issues that I knew of. And I had gotten them like 6 weeks after my 20th birthday.
Wow. And so you had them in for how long?
A total of 22 years, 2 sets.
I had mine in for 20. Okay, so for you, because every woman seems to react quite differently, when did you start realizing symptoms? Like I had symptoms reflecting back that I just never attached to breast implants. So now, when did you see symptoms?
8 weeks after I got them.
What did you have?
After I got them, I, like I said, I was 20 years old, and all of a sudden, like I got major depression.
Yeah.
I felt not normal at all. I was actually kind of scared and worried, and I was very fatigued. I was in college at the time. I could not wake up to go to school. I was like, God, what the heck is wrong with me? So I called my mom. Now, mind you, my mom did not know I had gotten this done. I was living in Florida. They were living in Tennessee. I felt it was nobody's business. So here I had a major surgery, never told my parents.
I
and
never told
went
mine.
I knew we'd
I
get
never
along.
told I told the whole rest of the world, just not my family.
Exactly. I didn't say anything, but I was very concerned about how I felt. So I did call my mom, and I knew kind of depression kind of ran in the family. I told her, so I just, really don't like how I feel. I feel it's kind of scary. So she's like, well, go talk to somebody. So I went, and I happened to mention to that therapist that I had just gotten implants and it's everything I ever wanted. And why do I feel this way? And she was like, well, how long ago did you get them? And I said it was about 6 to 8 weeks. And she said, well, a lot of people get post anesthetic depression that can, start that, time period after having the surgery. So why don't you give it a little bit more time and then come back and see me if you feel you need it? So of course, at 20 years old, I'm like, I'm not crazy. There's a reason for this. But the truth of the matter is that I have had multiple surgeries since then, and I have never in my life had that feeling. But that was the first time I had put something foreign inside of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gotten that feeling again 6 months after the second set.
So how many sets did you have total?
2.
2 in how many years? 22.
22.
Okay, I had 2 and 20. So did you got the second set? Why? Did you have a rupture?
No, nothing was wrong with them. I had actually, they were 15 years old. I didn't really want anything, to happen. You hear that you're supposed to get them done in 10 or whatever, but I had also gotten very, very lean, like, athletically, and I could feel all the ripples of the saline, implant. And I was like, you know what, it's time. It's time I get these redone. They're old. I don't want to, I didn't want them to rupture. I didn't want to have any issues. And so that's why I just chose to have them redone. And I chose to get them bigger, which was one of my biggest mistakes.
So how big did you go the second time? How big were you the first time? And then you expanded to what?
I was like 425 cc's and I went to 600.
Okay. Wow, that's big. So you were like a double D? Large?
I have no idea what my true size was, because literally just a few years after, I was like definitely a double D in the beginning, but then shortly after, the inflammation and stuff, I just started gaining weight, and they looked like cantaloupes by the time I explanted. I'll just put it that way. They were huge because I had gained over 70 pounds.
Yeah. I went from 120 to 198 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm in a doctor's office. I'm in the doctor's telling them I can't lose weight. I can't lose weight. I love to work out. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to up my workout to 2 hours a day. I'll work out my hour in the morning. Then I attached another hour at night. And I even gained more weight. And they're like, no, it's muscle. I go, no, seriously, something's terribly wrong. And I had to switch and pay out of pocket to a medical doctor who doesn't deal with insurance. And they sit there for an hour with you and they diagnosed Hashimoto's and I still had the implants in, and they put me on an anti-inflammatory diet. And I lost like almost a half a pound to a pound a day and just dropped like 50 pounds like that. Right. And then my surgery, I did another, that medical medium guy, I did his 28-day cleanse. I dropped 10 pounds 10 days before surgery. So I had 10 days before surgery, I dropped another 10 pounds doing his 28-day. I never finished it. And then lost like 4 pounds the week of surgery. It was all inflammation, like you're saying. My husband said it looked like I sat on an air hose. But when you look at the pictures, because I'm 135 pounds, and when you look at pictures when I had the implants in at 135, I look like,
yeah,
it's all in my neck and it's all inflamed.
Yeah. And not only was mine inflammation, but it was also fluid. Because what we found out, the only thing in my blood work that looked off was my absolute eosinophils. in February of 2018, they had gone over 1,000,
What
which
was
either
it?
means like parasite or means allergy.
No, what is it called? What is it that was high?
Absolute eosinophils. It's just in your regular white blood cell blood work when you get it done. It's not anything, a special test or anything like that. But it was creeping up, and finally in February 2018, it was over 1,000. Now, mind you, I'd already gone to an allergist. I'd already been, pricked and everything, tested for all these food and environmental, because I was swelling and, everything. And I was allergic to nothing but like a dust mite. And so it was just really weird because one of the first people I reached out to that had surgery with the explant surgeon that I chose, that was one of the things that she said. She goes, my absolute eosinophils were high. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to spend this, ridiculous amount of money to get tested for this, particular type of, test, because you can't just go to an allergist and say, I want to get tested for silicone, or it's not even silicone. And obviously, if I was allergic to silicone, I've been dead a long time ago. But it was, it's not a component in there. But anyway, I was just like, okay, well, I scheduled my surgery. I was going to get them out. And within 1 month after getting them out, it was down to like 700. Then it was down to 400. Then it was down to like, 275, 300. And that's where it stayed. So that's what we think. We think that I was allergic to just some type of a component in the second set. Obviously, I'm not allergic to silicone, like I said, because the saline have silicone shells. But that was why you figure somebody gets, bit by a bee and they start blowing up like a balloon. We can imagine if you have something permanently placed inside of your body that your body cannot stand.
Right.
Towards the end, I was gaining 3 pounds a month.
Yeah. Oh, I could do it in a couple days. I could gain like 10 pounds in just a couple days.
But unlike you, if I would have even chose to do an I'm on an anti-inflammatory diet now, but even if I would have chose to have done that with the implants in, there is no way I could lose weight.
Right. They pulled off the bulk of the weight, probably saved me from having a stroke or heart attack because I was 53 or 2 at the time. But on my blood work that came back, my high def CRP was marked, it was a 3.1, and it was marked high risk for stroke or heart attack. Did I get a phone call from this doctor and say, hey, something, you got inflammation? No, which is then why I switched to these other doctors. And they're the ones who are like, oh my God, bells and whistles going off all over the place for them, and probably saved my life. But yeah, people don't realize, like, I watched, you watch the news anchors on the national news and your local news, and they're usually really cut, like their arms. With the last several years, like the sleeveless was really big, and you'd see them with all their beautiful arms. And then all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, they look like they have breast implants. Let's see how long it takes for their chiseled arms to go away. And they're gone. Like within a year, their chiseled arms are gone. They don't realize it.
No, they don't realize it. It's funny because I actually had a friend that worked with me because at the a long time ago, and she had said, because I was like, all of us got breast implants. You were the one that didn't. And she'd even said, she goes, well, I didn't want to say anything back then, but I can say it now. But she goes, I noticed that pretty much everybody that got them, it looked like they gained like 10 pounds, like within 6 months to a year.
Yes.
And she goes, and I started noticing that. And she goes, and I was like, and she's like, at the time I had no idea what was going on, but she's like, now I get, after talking to you, like what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a girlfriend that got them right before me. That's the reason why I got them. And so she had the texture just like I did. As far as I know, she still got them in. I don't know though. I could be wrong. But right after surgery, I'm just in absolute agony. I mean, it just hurts so bad. And she's just like, no, it doesn't hurt at all. No, you wimp. And I'm just like, oh my God. It took me like a year for them not to hurt because they didn't belong in my body.
You don't.
They didn't want to be in there. My body was like, no. But yeah, so then you just get used to it. The tiredness, like you were saying, the depression kicked in immediately. Yeah. Anxiety out. Oh my God, anxiety attacks. Oh, and panic attacks. And I don't have any of it anymore.
Well, it's funny because after the second set was when I first started feeling some type of anxiety, and I had anxiety to make phone calls.
Yeah.
I had no idea this was a thing until somebody had posted about it in one of the groups. And I was like, that's exactly what happened. Like I would think about, I'd be, I hope I can go online and make an appointment because I just don't want to call. And as soon as I called, the heart would just start fluttering. And I'm like, I don't know these people. And now I can just pick up the phone and call anybody and not have, anything about it. But I was just like, I could not believe that that is like a real thing. And I wasn't the only one that felt it.
Yeah, no, it's very common. People, depression, anxiety, suicidal depression, very common. So did you go on any meds? Did they put you on any meds for,
No, I refused to get put on any meds. I think when I did go see that lady back when I was 20 years old, I think she did put me on Prozac. And I do think that made me even more tired.
Yep.
And I said, heck with this. I mean, I didn't even give it the month to kick in. I was like, forget this. I'm not taking this, I'm like, I think it was doing more harm than good. After I got the second set and I started feeling out of whack, there was no way. By this time, I'm starting to look things up. I'm starting to educate myself, and the only thing that I got, put on, I did have to go on thyroid meds, and I had 0 hormones at the age of 38. So I did have to start taking all the female hormones. Testosterone was first, progesterone was second, estrogen was third. And I had to do that to even be able to survive. And like when I started doing that, I was having really bad hair loss. And my hair actually started growing back as soon as I started taking testosterone.
oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, because I've
That's
learned that,
interesting.
iron and hormones are the biggest culprits for hair loss. So
How are you sure that it was the testosterone and not the estrogen or progesterone?
because I hadn't started taking the estrogen and progesterone yet.
Oh, so it's definitely when you went on testosterone, you grew your hair back more.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I just like what you're saying, I had to go to a doctor that, works at one of these wellness clinics
yeah.
that does the B12 and the HCG crap and all that stuff like that. I had to go to them because I had an intuition that it was my testosterone. I had been kickboxing for 7 years and I was going to kickboxing class and I was so sore. And the rest of my friends are like, well, I don't really feel like I'm getting a good workout anymore. Like I don't get sore or anything. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like I'm so sore all the time. And like I said, by this time I'm starting to research, I'm starting to do some stuff. And I'm like, this sounds like testosterone to me. And I know that you can't get an endo, to do anything for you. So I went to this guy and he checked my testosterone and it was so low that it was completely out of range low. It was like undetected, it said on the blood work.
Wow.
And he was like, this is a problem. He said, you're too young. And so anyway, he started, put me on a high dose of testosterone. And immediately I started sleeping a little bit better. And then my hair started growing back.
Wow. Because that's a huge problem in the breast implant community is hair loss.
Yeah. Well, think about
Lots of
it.
hair loss.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I kind of trickle it down to that, breast implants are an internal stress. Internal stress brings you to adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue leads to thyroid problems and hormone imbalance. So I just kind of blame, I kind of look back and I had issues of adrenal fatigue starting in 2006. I had really bad insomnia, but I was just, I think back now and I'm like, I think that's how it all started. I think it started from the adrenals.
I think I damaged my adrenals also, but I had ADD my whole life, but I had Hashimoto's my whole life and never knew it. So I think my diet was my ADD, most of it, like it's a lot of my diet controls my ADD, but I just lost my train of thought. Speaking of ADD, they put me on meds when I was in my 30s, Concerta for ADD. And I never felt like I was taking anything, but I was like really like, I'm sure if you saw me coming down the hallway at work, you were like, "Ooh, ooh, go the other way because she'll never stop talking." And I don't know if that messed up my adrenal gland or something. I don't know.
Yes, they do. Because now, did you notice if your ADD got better after you got your implants out?
My brain fog cleared up immensely. I couldn't remember anything 30 seconds later. It was getting so bad. I thought the inflammation was up on my brain. I wish I could have got a doctor to scan my brain prior to removing those implants, because I really think like I had inflammation up there. And when they removed for 3 years, you've seen my face keep deflating. And like 3 months after, I'm like, oh, look how skinny my face is now. And I look back now and my face still looked 3 months later, but I thought it was deflated. Now it's like getting skeletal because, but it's almost 4 years post-op. I'm just saying, I think my body is still recovering 4 years later because I had them in so long.
You don't get sick after 20 years, but I was asking about your ADD because I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 27, when I was in college. And like you, I got put on meds and, that was fine. But back in 2014, like just a few years after I replaced my implants, I started getting really, like the adrenals really started to go. And because the ADHD meds are a stimulant, and when you have adrenal issues, you're not even supposed to even drink coffee or any type of caffeine. So what do you think, prescribed speed is doing to you? So I had to get off of it. But I had noticed that when I had removed my implant, if I was watching TV, I was constantly on the phone, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and do this. I could not sit still. I was silently on the phone. And as soon as I removed those implants, I could actually sit and watch like an hour show and not look at the phone once, not get up once. And I was like, holy crap, all of these years. And I'm like, and I just think it's like toxicity, like stuff too. It just really, really kind of messes with you.
Yeah, I was always like, here's me in school, I'm going to listen to the teacher. Here's what I'd start doing. I'm going to listen to her. 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 And then I realized I've been chanting that for 5 minutes and I don't have a clue now what page they're on because I'm going to listen to her. Yeah. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm listening. Oh, look, a squirrel. Oh, yeah. I wonder if he's got a nest in the tree. Oh, and then I'd hear my name called and then, it was all the time and it's still happening. But I do know a lot of it is my diet and I've cleaned up my diet lately. So we'll see. But it's like when I'm not on meds, I'm just like, you're in second gear, you can't shift. On the meds, it's like you're in sixth gear and you still want to go faster. So I can't win. And it messed with my central nervous system and my lower back pain started. When they put me on the meds is when the lower back pain started. And then I went off the meds and the pain remained until I removed those implants. And then the pain has not come back.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I do think all my symptoms can be related to inflammation, but it was all caused by a bad reaction to those darn toxic fun bags.
Yeah, I know.
They sure were fun for a while though, weren't they?
Oh, I love them. I love showing them off, everything, but
go to the bathroom with women. You want to see them?
Right. Yeah, I've had no shame back then, but now it's like, I see all the pictures around my house and I'm like, ooh, what was I thinking? They didn't even now and they were just 600s. Why did I do that to myself? I mean, they looked so, I don't know. I look now and I'm like, oh, that did not look good at all.
Yeah. And then I look back on all the women that I said, hey, you want to see them? Aren't they great? And then they may have gone and gotten them because of me. And now I feel bad, but I didn't know at the time either. I was told they were safe,
Oh yeah.
And then the women, I have a friend who tested positive for the breast cancer gene. And so and she was only, I think, in her 30s, and she did a voluntary double mastectomy and then was going to put implants in. And of course, back then I didn't know. So I'm like, yeah, you're going to love them. Yeah. Oh yeah. And she still got them in. And I'm just like, I just sit over here, I feel so awful, but so far she doesn't think she's reacting. And what are you going to do? I just keep, I've warned them. I warn people and then you just back away. If you want to keep smoking, go ahead, take a risk. Because that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I can't save the world. I mean, people still know my story. They still go and get them for the first time. They're still replacing them. Nothing I can.
I do have friends who have them who don't appear to be reacting, but what I do tell them is, I just think you're silently killing your immune system.
Well, and plus too, think about it. I mean, I got it when I was 20. Did I know life any different when I was in my 30s? That's how you live. You don't know. And that's why I get into a lot of like arguments with people like on TikTok or whatever, because they'll, and I'm just like, what you don't understand is that you don't have to be sick, define sick And then so the one girl was like, well, may I ask what symptoms you had? And I said, well, I can't type all that here, but I mean, I did like basically 3 responses, and I was like, that's just to name a few, and I was like, so as you can see, they mimic signs of aging.
Mhm.
They mimic things that you would never think about. If you have, digestive issues, food sensitivities, vision loss,
Yeah.
would you blame your breast implants if you're getting, night sweats in your 40s? You're going to think it has to do with something with your hormone. This is what happens when women are premenopausal. I
Mhm.
would wrench the sheets. I
Yes.
still have stains on my mattress pad from when I was sweating so bad. And 3 weeks after I got those implants out, never had a night sweat again.
My night sweats continued, but I'm 57 and they just put me on bioidentical hormones maybe 2 months ago. And I didn't believe it would be hormonal. I said, no, this is not hormones. Even though you tested my blood and they're totally tanked, this is not hormonal.
Yeah.
And now my hot flashes during the day are almost gone. I'd say 98% gone.
That's good.
My night sweats are probably 75, 80% gone slowly each day. Now I'm starting to sleep a little more. I could never even fall asleep. Now I'm falling asleep, but I can't stay asleep. And I wake up at the 2 or 3, like a lot of women, but it's years. When did you explant? How many years ago?
It'll be 4 years, August 30th.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm 4 years in April.
Yay.
So how many symptoms? Let's hear all your symptoms. I know you didn't want to rattle them off on Twitter, but let's hear them because I had like 40 some.
If I can remember them all, but I mean, obviously I had the night sweats. I had frequent urination. I had things that range from constant or like, constipation to having like random episodes of like diarrhea, memory loss, brain fog. I felt like I couldn't speak sometimes. I felt like my brain and my mouth were like not connecting. In my brain, I knew what I was going to say, but the mouth was not saying anything. I'd be in the middle of a conversation and I would be like,
Yep.
what was I talking about? I could not retrieve it for the life of me. I had numbness and tingling.
Can I pause you there? Like you couldn't retrieve it for the life of you. Like if you lost your train of thought talking to somebody and they said you were talking about this or that, could you still not recall it?
Not really.
Okay,
I mean, I could just, kind of pick up where I thought I left off, but I literally could not, like, it just went boom, like blackout.
Yep. I was at lunch with a bunch of gals and I was telling a story. I don't remember what it was. No pun, no pun intended there. Let's say it was about my cat or something. And, and all of a sudden, and they're all like waiting for the punchline or whatever. And and all of a sudden I go, I don't know what I was saying. And they're like, oh, well, you were talking about blah, blah, blah. And I go, nope. And then they start telling me this and that and this and that. Nope.
The world.
I couldn't recall any of. I'm like, no, I don't even know. I couldn't even pull it back up.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling. I thought I was losing my mind, and I was only 42 at the time. And then to have memory loss that bad,
Yes.
I had a real issue with numbers. I'd look away from the calculator and boom, just in a matter of seconds, I cannot remember. I couldn't remember any of those.
I couldn't remember
a lot of things.
As quick as it is to open a Google page, a fresh page to Google something, I'd open the page and then I'd think, what was I going to Google?
Right.
I like the joke, you walk in the other room or you go to the refrigerator and it's like, what was I getting? But this was as quick as the page opening, I couldn't remember what I was going to Google.
Right. Yeah, no, I would do that too. And I would like walk into the kitchen or something and be like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, that has not happened again. And I can't even tell you how long have I forgot why I was going, into someplace. I do sometimes. I'll be like, I'll get sidetracked. Once again, the ADD, it's not 100% gone, but I still got episodes from it. But I would, be sitting there trying to, just, figure out, and I'll be like, oh, I remember what I was doing. So I could retrieve things a lot quicker now. I still may blank, but I can, I know what I was talking about. Oh, I know what I was going to do.
Right. Yep. Yep. I can retrieve it and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where I couldn't before. Yeah. That's awful. So
Yeah,
did
it
you
was
have,
4 months after I explanted that my husband and I were like, we have, yearly passes to Universal Studios because we don't live far from Orlando. And we had gone, and I actually could remember where we parked, like 12 hours later, it's like Cat in the Hat, 5:36 or something like that. And I can actually remember that. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh, thank God it's coming back.
you know what I
And then
did? Mine's not apparently, because the other day I had to pull out my phone and use the parked car on my map. It'll show you where your car is parked. And I was at a parking lot at a store and I'm like, gosh dang, where is it? And I'm trying to hit my remote, the honk, 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 and it must be low or something. So I'm like, I finally give up and I pull out my phone and I'm looking for the parked car and I'm like, well, it says I'm right here. And I was standing right in the back of my car. So mine's still happening, but mine's a lot of my diet and Hashimoto's. But it was worse with the implants, and oh my God, it was awful. So did you get any UTI issues?
No, but I did when my estrogen dropped.
Oh, really?
UTI, like random UTIs, are also a sign of hormone imbalances, mainly like estrogen. Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay, because the whole time I had my implants in, and then since I get UTI symptoms, but I don't have a UTI. They
But
tested.
now so monitor now that you're on bioidentical, see if that starts to dissipate.
It has. I thought I was getting a flare up a couple days ago and I was like, oh God. And then it just faded away. So that never would have happened. I would have had like a week worth of popping over the counter UTI pills, but there was never an infection. Every time I'd go to the doctor, there was never an infection, but I'd have.
I know, so you feel that burn. You're like, oh God, I got to get in there.
Yes. And chills and oh God, it's awful. Yeah. And I suffered with that. And yeah, so that's calming down. That's interesting. I never heard that it could have been hormonal. See, how come nobody told me that?
I don't know. I think
from social media.
I think I read some type of an article and I was like, that makes sense, because I didn't really get the UTIs. I think I got one time from that. But my biggest thing I get vertigo.
Oh.
When I would stand up, I would get really dizzy and almost pass out, and that was low estrogen.
That's low estrogen too?
Mm-hmm. Did you get dizzy?
No, I have always had extremely low blood pressure. Like I was just at the doctor today and it was 112/57. I go, okay, 57 is a bit low even for me, but I get dizzy, but my whole life it stays pretty low. But when I had the implants in, my blood pressure climbed. And when I finally went to that doctor in Lansing, the great doctors, it was 167 over something. I freaked out. I'm like, I'm heading to the ER. Nobody's listening to me. There's something wrong. I have extremely low blood pressure. Something's wrong. And she's like, it's your thyroid. I said, no, they're telling me my thyroid's fine. And it wasn't. It wasn't. No. Hashimoto's. I mean, your thyroid's not fine if you've got Hashimoto's. How did I not get diagnosed till my 50s? If it wasn't right. People like all these support pages and people coming forward and speaking up like you and me and Maria and everybody, I would probably be in a wheelchair right now. I'm convinced.
I definitely would have died.
I may have killed myself. I was very suicidal.
I was on my way to death. And, I really honestly, because I was so swollen, you can't have that much fluid inside of your body. Yeah. And then got to a point I was like terrified to go to bed at night because I was afraid I was going to have a heart attack or something because I was so swollen. And that's why I think back, like, what if this would have happened back in 96 when I first got my implants and we had no internet in our home?
Yeah, right.
Thank God, none of this happened until later on, because I agree with you. If it wasn't for social media, I would be dead right now. It was even because of one of my followers on Instagram that I had told her about the fluid. you know, like once you get that lymphedema fluid inside your tissues, it is really hard to get off. This is something that a water pill is not going to touch. And, you know, and I was still having the fluid, it's not really like coming out. And she's like, well, that's not healthy. And she told me, you know, a story about her mom, and it had nothing to do with breast implants. But once again, she said, you know, it took her a long time to find somebody who believed in her. And they were just saying like, oh, eat less, work out more, you know, the same scenario that you get when you're gaining weight. And she was like, this is not fat, this is fluid. So finally she said that she had gotten a physical therapist, a compression pump, compression garments, and she put the fight back in me. So because of her, I joined like a lymphedema group. Somebody took time out of their day to find all the lymphedema specialists here in the Tampa Bay area. And I called, you know, Tampa General, and I booked an appointment with a vascular surgeon, and I got diagnosed with lymphedema. I got the physical therapist, I got the compression pump, and I got the garments. And I was like, but it's because of her. And I'm like, what would I do if I didn't have you ladies?
So you still have lymphedema? Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So did you have that before you put the implants in, do you think?
No,
Or did it cause it?
No, like 1 year after I replaced my implants, I never had any swelling issues with the first set, but as about a year after I replaced them, I was in the shower, and as soon as that hot water would hit the back of my legs, whoosh, you could feel it, the swell. And I was like, what the heck is that? And then it like progressively got worse. So that's my thing. Like I hated that I got sick. I mean, even though I wouldn't trade anything for the world, because I learned a lot from this experience, but I wish I would have had breast implant illness put in my past sooner, so I didn't get that bad. Because like I said, I was gaining 3 pounds a month towards the end. And if I could have caught this in 2015, 2016, when I had only gained like, you know, 30, 40 pounds, it would have been a lot better than just keep compiling that fluid, you know, to where it's like, so, you know, in there that it barely, you know, wants to come out. So I was in physical therapy for 7 months last year, twice a week with a lymphedema specialist.
So what is that? Is that like massaging or what? What do you do? What's physical therapy?
One of my legs in the pump, you know, that like it starts from the bottom and it squeezes slowly. So basically it kind of pushes the fluid up towards the lymph nodes to drain. And then in the meantime, they were kind of like doing this type of motion to me. So yeah, I would just basically get in there, strip down to my undies, and they would just massage me all over, and then they would pump my legs.
And did insurance cover that?
Yeah.
100%? You just paid a copay? I
had to pay my deductible.
Or the deductible, yeah.
Yeah, I had to pay the deductible. And then of course, after that, I had to pay 20%. And then after that, it was, you know, 100%. But I did not have to pay for my compression pump. That was $13,000. My lymphedema therapist said, I have never in my life given somebody this much compression, because I had full body lymphedema. This isn't just my legs. You know, most people get lymphedema, you know, like just on one leg, one arm, you know, or whatever, but I had full body. And so that's why when I went there, they're like, okay, well, you're not the norm, but, you know, I have had some people, you know, ladies like you. And so we're just going to try to do what we can, you know, but they couldn't tell me like, we can't make any promises to you. So for the compression, I had the legs, but I also have a vest that squeezes my arms and my breast and my stomach and everything. So I had to have full body compression. So that's why he's like, never in my career have I had to give this many. And he goes, but hey, insurance is going to pay 100%. So, but yeah, 13,000 is what I saw they charged.
Wow. And how much was your explant surgery that insurance doesn't cover?
Yeah, well, it actually ended up being about 6,500.
Oh, that's not bad. Did you go to Dr. Khan? Oh no, Dr. Khan's here in Michigan. That's not bad.
No, I went to Dr. Barnett. So normally she charges like 7,200. That was what I was planning on paying. But then, you know, my surgery didn't take as long as it was supposed to take. I actually got a refund back from the surgery center, which I thought was actually really nice because I would have never known. And so, you know, when it's all said and done, that was about kind of like what it was. It was right around 6,500.
Wow. Well, that's great. That's a great price.
And I did get a lift. Dr. Barnett, she was very, you know, she's very cool about that. She was just like, no, you have nice elasticity, you know, everything. She's like, no, you don't need a lift.
And
I listened to her.
So you didn't need a lift in the long run. There's a big debate on lifts upon explant. I don't
A
know
lot
what,
of people just assume that you need one,
huh?
and some people do. Because I mean, mind you, I have a lot of friends that got implants, a long time ago because they had saggy boobs. And the thing is that they don't lift anything. They're freaking heavy.
Yeah.
So these people that got them to help pump up their boobs back then, yeah, they needed a lift then, they're gonna need a lift now.
Yeah.
If you had maybe some kids, I can totally understand, with the lift and everything. But I did not. She recommended I not get it. I know I was kind of like, God, 600 cc's and 70 pounds. And and she was just like, even my husband was like, well, if you don't listen to her, you're stupid. This woman like looks at boobs all day long. And if she recommends you don't do it, then you are stupid if you go against her and get it done. Because she just like grabbed like a big chunk of my boob and she goes, you see this? This is all tissue. You're not going to be flat. She goes, you're going to be fine. And, and everything. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I think my boobs look great. I'm very happy I didn't listen to her. Or that I did listen to her and I didn't get it.
I did get a lift, and I see many pictures of women whose breasts look almost identical to mine prior, and then they didn't get a lift and they look gorgeous after, like they bounce back. Like you said, they had great breast tissue. You have to have good breast tissue. And I did, and I think I would have been fine. And I don't know how I feel about doing the lifts at the same time. Unless you're absolutely sure they're going to be really bad, I think I'd wait.
I know. Now who was your explant surgeon? Because you are up there with a bunch of good ones.
I went down to Costa Rica to Dr. Ursula.
Oh, okay.
Because it was 4 years ago. And at the time I was going to go to Dr. Rankin down in Florida because he and Dr. Ursula's pictures with lifts looked beautiful. And so I had never been to Costa Rica. I was booked with Rankin, and the only reason I canceled was I had never been to Costa Rica. So we vacationed off the front end of my surgery, and then I had my surgery and came home. But yeah, I went there, but I just really wonder if I really should have got the lift. So I do tell women I would just wait unless you really, really know. I mean, I guess if they were really awful when you put them in, then they're probably going to be awful when you pull them out. I didn't have mine looked fine when I got them. I was just small.
Yeah, me too. And but that's why I don't know, and I don't mean to like sound sexist in any way, but I do kind of feel like the male surgeons, they just assume that you need one. I don't really know of one that doesn't really recommend. There's a guy here in Spring Hill, Florida, that he will not do a lift at the same time of explant. And the reason is that he has noticed that only about 10% really come back to him on like wanting a lift. And obviously, he will, make arrangements with you. You don't have to, spend the full amount, whatever. But he just said, most of my ladies don't even come back.
Yeah.
Either they're, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought, or the heck with it,
Yeah. Well, the trauma also, we have a surgeon here, Dr. Khan in Detroit, and he won't do a lift. He won't.
Oh, okay.
He refuses. He says it's unsafe. He won't use drains either, unless it's absolutely like, I don't even know if he's ever used a drain because he thinks they're very unsafe, like the risk of infection and I'd never had drains, and I had a full lift, and I was just tightly compressed and told to leave it as tight as I could. Like I almost couldn't breathe. It was so tight, and I had never had any issues. But the women who had issues seemed to be the ones that took their compression bra off and then showed everybody that night, hey, look, I just had surgery today. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I was warned not to even peek. Don't even look. Just leave them alone because of the risk of infection, and you're going to let fluids in. And sure enough, they all had issues, the ones who didn't follow the directions. So,
Yeah, Dr. Barnett, I didn't have drains. I know, and if she does do a lift on somebody, she only recommends drains for only 24 hours because the same thing. She said, I felt that, she said that when she was in medical school, that she noticed that if people had drains longer than a couple days, that's when things started to set in, bacteria and all these kind of things. So she goes, if you get a lift, you have, drains only for 24 hours. I did not. I mean, I could lay down and I could hear my boobs like a water bag, like a water bag, like, I could feel the fluid, but it goes, it dissipates.
Yeah. Really, I didn't feel anything, but I mean, I'm serious. He had me wrapped up like a mummy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I
I
was only
got
gone for
such,
24 hours. And then you go to her the very next day and she shows you your implant, she shows you your capsule, and she tells you like her finding and, does she think that your capsule needs to go to pathology and, all that kind of stuff. Mine they were yellow, so she was like, that's from fat, whatever. But yeah, so she had taken my compression off like within 24 hours.
yeah. So did you have joint pain?
I did not. I was very blessed in that respect because I do have friends that are autoimmune. They have random different autoimmune diseases. And like I said, I always tell people that if you were diagnosed with something with the implants in, you can probably count on that they did it. They triggered it. They, either made you get it or triggered like something like you probably had it for a long time, but it just triggered it in you, the autoimmune response. But I do have a lot of friends that have a lot of really bad autoimmune responses and they are in pain.
Yeah, I said I created the perfect storm when I put those implants in because, I mean, how did you not diagnose Hashimoto's? First of all, if I showed you pictures of me, like in my 20s, I was like anorexic looking, and you could have given me $5 million to gain weight, and I couldn't. It wasn't possible. I physically couldn't. And then you put the implants in, and the action comes, but it wasn't weight; it was water. I kept saying it's like. And I remember when I first went to those doctors, she's doing this to me and she's like, look how thick your skin is. And I'm like, what? And she's like, look how thick. I can't pull your skin. It was so thick. It was like grabbing your thigh. Yeah. And I go, well, it's always like that. And she goes, it is. And she goes, that's an indication you're having thyroid issues. Your skin is real thick like that. And I go, now look at my skin. Now look, it's all thin like she.
Oh, see, mine's still thick, but I know I still got some fluid in here.
Yes. So now I'm like, oh my God, you couldn't do that before on me. It was like grabbing a thick piece of my thigh or something, like a piece of muscle.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And that's totally, but again, it took like 4 years to deflate. So any other symptoms or headaches, migraines?
I was getting random everyday headaches at 2:00. Once again, that stopped when I started taking testosterone.
Okay.
Daily headaches at 2:00 every day. You felt like you wanted to crack your neck, like that kind of, feeling. I had numbness and tingling in my hands, muscle weakness. I could barely write anymore. I had chronic dry mouth. I never tested positive for Sjogren's, but I know the rheumatologist, she's like, well, that doesn't mean that you don't have it. She's like, because I was having the lymphatic issues and the dry mouth and, everything. So she was like, you can have it. But then I've also learned that you can have toxicity induced autoimmune responses. And maybe I don't have Sjogren's, but I was just having the symptoms of Sjogren's because of the toxicity. I will still get flares where all of a sudden, like my mouth will get really dry, and then it will only last for a while. The next day I'll be fine. So I just get flare ups sometimes where I get that feeling all over again. But also at the same time, I was on ADHD meds and they're known to give you a dry mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just blamed it on that. I had no idea that was linked to a health problem.
Right. Yeah. And the autoimmune issues, people are getting diagnosed with MS, ladies, MS, lupus. Yeah. Lupus. What are the other, fibromyalgia? You just said the Sjögren's or whatever, however you say it. And then what's the other one? That's hard to say. Anyway, it seems like it's becoming very common, like these, and then some people, it goes away once you remove things. Other people, it calms down, but it seems like you've done permanent damage. So yeah, I think they're silent killers. I think they should be banned. I don't push to have them banned, but I think they should be. I think they're silent killers.
I do too. And I think it's criminal that they get offered to breast cancer patients.
Yeah.
You get cancer because your immune system can't fight off the cells. And then, then you're putting toxic chemo into them and everything. And then you're offering these toxic foreign objects that now your immune system is fighting that. The women that have gotten them and they're fine, like I commend them completely. But they don't know if there is something really going on. Cause like I said, the symptoms aren't really kind of
Or
what
they're,
you think.
yeah, they're not aware. Did you see the new documentary Explant that's on Paramount Plus? Did you see
Mhm.
the older woman and she's like, takes her phone call and she's like, I'm talking about my, like, she's clearly having like Parkinson's or something issues. And I don't think she connects that it could possibly be from the implants. I mean, did you catch that?
No,
It's,
I know. I saw it before it came on Paramount. I actually paid to watch it back in May when it
so
first
did
came
I.
out. And so I can't really remember that particular scene, but
I should go back and rewatch it. Maybe I misunderstood her, but it almost seemed she was having like, some physical problem. And then it almost sounded like she didn't think anything was caused from the breast implants. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch it again, but I do think that's a problem. I think women don't realize they're reacting to them.
no, and I almost think that maybe like the younger you get them, the worse it is because you've had all this, you may not get symptoms for a while because your younger body can handle it. Maybe women who get them in their 40s or something, if it takes maybe 10, 15 years, then maybe they, whatever, they don't care or whatnot. But I feel like, the younger you get them, the more steps you have to get, and everything. And I don't know. Obviously I'm highly against them, but like I said, I can't, I try to have a good attitude about it. I try not to, a lot of my friends that still have implants, that got implants like the same time I did, a lot of them, it's like a closed subject. And I'm going to talk about all the time and be like, oh yeah, after I remove my implants, I'm always going to bring it up because it is a part of my life and who I am.
Yeah.
But some people have never asked me questions, asked me to elaborate anything. They have never even acknowledged that this even happened to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I just start talking, I guess. I don't wait for
Well, like I said, they're not going to stop me
no,
from
it is
saying stuff,
shocking.
but then it's like, and they just let me keep going and going, but they will not like openly ask me questions or,
Wow.
anything like that. They just, and it's just and some are, they're in the process of trying to get theirs out. I have had about a dozen friends that removed their implants, some of which did not think they had any symptoms. And some of those women are like, damn, I feel good. And they had no idea that they even had a symptom until they got them out. Because like I said, if you've had them for 20 years, this is how you live. You don't know there's anything wrong until you make a big adjustment like that.
So do any of them regret removing them? Because I know
No.
several women have regretted it, and now there's support pages for that on Facebook, and I don't dismiss that either. Everybody has their own journey and their own story. But I know I know of a woman who removed them, and she then feels that they did not cause her illnesses, and that it was polycystic ovarian syndrome or whatever it's called. Yeah. And so she put them back in. And so I'm watching to see if she reacts, praying that she doesn't. But so far she claims that she's okay. But then I had another lady just contact me within the last couple of weeks, and I don't know. I mean, I know her through the pages, and she said she removed her implants. She was like deathly ill, removed them and made a full recovery and felt great, and then convinced herself that it wasn't the implants after all. And because she missed them so badly, and she put them back in, and she's on death's door again and can't afford to get them out. She doesn't have the money to remove them now. Yeah. So yeah, it's a problem.
I've only had a couple friends that really didn't feel like they had, any issues, but one, she did remove hers and they found out they were textured. She had no idea what she had and found out they were recalled. And I had another friend that removed her longtime saline implants and they had floaties in them.
Ooh, was it mold?
Can you imagine if that ruptured inside of you? Like you got this ticking time bomb that can have mold in it, and that is a direct hit to your bloodstream. Oh,
I did have a rupture I had textured saline, and it ruptured, and I woke up and the one side was flatter than the other. And I said, oh my God, I think I have a rupture. And then my husband goes and squeezes it. And I go, oh my God, you just squeezed all that saline into my blood system, like into my system. And plus you're deflating it. Stop, but I couldn't get it replaced for a month or more. Because by the time
Oh,
you line up surgery and everything and it was totally flat. I had to walk around with my one side stuffed with a sock. Uh-huh.
how
But
long did you have your saline implants before they ruptured?
12 years with the textured and then had a rupture. And then he was trying to convince me to get the smooth gummy bears. And I said, no, I don't want the silicone. And he said, no, you want those, you don't want the saline. And I said, I do not want them. I don't want them in case they rupture. And he said, what are the chances of them rupturing? They're not going to rupture. I go, I'm in here because I just had a rupture. I mean, don't give me this, what are the chances? I'm in here because of a rupture. These doctors are just really, and the way they push them on the women, like you said, with breast cancer, they push it, like they get in their head and push implants on them.
Yeah, I know. And like I did change my second set out with the gummies.
Oh, you did.
They are so toxic. But yeah, I had a next door neighbor. She actually had to be part of the study because this was like an 05 or something. And she was very thin skinned. And she had, he said, well, saline is too dense for people like you, because, you're very thin skinned, you'll be able to see, all the ripples and, things like that. So he had recommended her get the gel. I remember they were gorgeous. So when I went to go replace mine, like 6 years later, there was no question I was getting those. But, when you go into the office, they have one of them cut in half. See,
Yeah.
no rupture. We all know what kind of a joke that is. You know
Yeah,
what I
they
mean?
don't,
Like,
they don't show it. And once it's inside a 98-degree oven for how many years?
right. It's in a controlled environment. It's yeah, it's going to be gummy, whatever, it's not going to, but I mean, so of course, I was not told to get MRIs, not that I remember. I mean, granted, I was, full of myself and cocky, and I was like, oh, I've had him 15 years. What would happen now? I didn't think anything of it at all. But yeah, I've talked to a lot of women that had my exact same implants, and a lot of us had the exact same symptoms.
So we have a doctor here in Michigan calling himself the celebrity plastic surgeon. And on his Instagram, he was holding up a new double layered implant. So it's a double shell. So that way, if you get a rupture, you've got another shell to protect you. And somebody said, so are those safe? And he put, yes, all implants are safe. I wouldn't put them in if they weren't. And he pretends like he's vocal in the breast implant community that he believes in breast implant illness and blah, blah, blah. Yet he's sitting there telling women all implants are safe.
Oh yeah, I saw where Mentor had posted on Instagram about, maybe this is that same type of implant. I don't know if it had two shells or not, but it's called the Boost, the memory gel Boost or something like that. And of course I'll feel cocky one day and I'll do the thumbs down emoji. And then, a breast cancer, unfortunately a breast cancer survivor had, commented and said, well, what do you want us to do? And I just said, I'm not going to get into it here. I'm just going to private message you. And of course, I don't even think she ever even read it because, when you're not friends with somebody on Instagram, it goes into a different folder. And I specifically told her, I messaged you, go into your request folder and read it. And I don't even think she ever read it. But I mean, it was a long thing. And I just gone on about the immune system and everything. And I know I had a friend that passed away from breast cancer a few years ago. And I know she'd always told me, she said, you have to be very careful how you talk to the breast cancer survivors, And so I tried to be, but when you're writing, you don't know what content to take it in. She doesn't feel my empathy and my sympathy and, everything like that. I'm just like putting things on paper. So it's like, I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm just trying to educate them on, I want you to do your research. I want you to see what they do to your immune system.
Right.
Your immune system is fighting cancer.
Yeah, and instead of getting argumentative or mad at us, you might want to start Googling.
Yeah, Yeah, that's all it takes. I mean, of course, everybody in my family has a thyroid problem. So my hair was falling out, and I was gaining weight, and I was tired. Well, I thought it was thyroid easily, but
So have you
the
been,
thyroid has never did
have you
anything to
been
me.
checked post-op for Hashimoto's?
I have, and I actually I just got my blood done on Monday, and she checked me again,
For
which I haven't got my
Hashimoto's?
results back. Yeah. Yeah, because even with the implants in, I was not testing positive for Hashi's, but just like the rheumatologist is saying,
It could come anytime,
you can have who knows what you have,
right?
just because, she just said that like if it shows up on a blood test, you're lucky.
It's like
But
diabetes.
that
Yeah. You could just
yeah,
describe it like diabetes.
don't
Yeah.
have something.
Yeah. So you
So we'll
feel
see
great.
how
You feel
what
great now, 4 years post-op, and you feel great now? No issues?
I got my moments. I got my ups and downs. I feel really good for a few months, and then unfortunately, because I have lost like 55 pounds out of the 70 whatever that I gained. You have to think about all that fluid that was in my tissues. It collected a lot of gunk. All that breast implant nastiness. So the more weight that I lose, the worse I feel, because all toxins get stored in your fat cells and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you notice a difference when your weight shifted, but it will take me out sometimes. So I try to take care of my liver. And
Like wipe you out, like tired when you say take you out, like make
yeah,
you just exhausted?
sometimes it'll just make me feel like I have implants all over again, and it
That's,
may last for a good 4 to 6 weeks.
I go through that, but that's my Hashimoto's. Yeah. Huh. I wonder if you've got like a quiet autoimmune issue, or you're on borderline or something.
Well, I definitely feel the autoimmune responses, and so also we have to think about it too. If that gunk was all in the fluid and it started to come out actively into my bloodstream, and I was allergic to something in those implants, and that component is still going to be in that fluid, I'm going to react. So there's certain times of the year I get my blood work done like every 12 weeks, and there will be times where that absolute eosinophils will skyrocket back up, and then it will go back down. Where obviously I must have, that layer of whatever came out when I got my blood done, and I'm going to react because I seemed like I had an allergy to something.
Yeah. When I was, we went to the FDA to try to get the black box warning, and we got it. When I spoke, I talked about the memory issues and the suicidal depression, and a gal tapped on my shoulder, and she's been researching it, and she asked if I was allergic to nickel. And I said, well, yeah, I have trouble with jewelry, like throbbing. My ears will bleed if I don't get them out in time. If they start throbbing, I got to get them out because they're going to bleed next. And she thought from her research that perhaps because of the nickel in the implant shell, that it was the nickel causing my memory issues. I know, but I think it's inflammation up in the brain.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why we get the memory, loss. And, and it's funny too, because I have had women contact me that had IUDs, lap bands from gastric bypass.
Oh, I never thought about the lap bands, a reaction to the lap band.
Yeah, I've had women contact me that had all kind of different types of foreign objects that had the same issue, and memory loss, brain fog, maybe not as bad as you and I had the memory loss, but the brain fog, not being able to like remember some things. So it seems like that seems to be like a common symptom of any foreign object.
Wow.
It's kind of like the conclusion I had made.
The IUDs, I think those should be outlawed.
I hear you.
Did you? I'm sure you saw the bleeding edge, right?
Yes, of
Oh
course.
my gosh. When you see what those women with the IUDs went through, I never knew how they worked. They're intentionally causing a reaction.
That was the E-Sure though. That's different than an IUD.
Oh, it is?
That was called the E-Sure. Yeah. And those were those little coils that go into your fallopian tubes, and the whole point was to cause inflammation to block your tubes.
Right. So that's different than a regular IUD?
Yeah.
Oh, what's an IUD?
Yeah. It's something that it's not something that it goes into the fallopian tubes. I think it's just, well, maybe it does go up there. I really don't know, because of course I'm not going to have one because I'm not putting anything else into this body, but I do know I have had a few friends that had the copper IUDs and they came out moldy when they finally got them out. Disgusting. And then I had, another one where, like I said, they started getting the same type of symptoms of breast implant illness. And actually a woman I was working with at the time when I was going through this, I had her watch The Bleeding Edge. And she was like, obviously doesn't have an e-sure, but she looked up a Facebook group for her particular brand of IUD. She was having a lot of issues and she didn't know it. So she joins that group and the light bulb went off and she literally like the next week went and got it out. And she's like, Carrie, thank you. I had no idea, she's like, I've been having issues with memory and I've been having, really bad cramping and bleeding. And she goes, I had no idea.
Well, I went to my gynecologist, my yearly, yesterday, and she had a young, like 28-year-old in there and I started, did you know? Because I'm sure you don't know, because I know that they're not teaching you this in medical school, but I got sick from my breast implants and blah, 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 blah. And he just sat there. I had no idea. I said, I know you don't have any idea. And I told the female gynecologist, I said, and I'm telling you, because you're going to have people like me coming in who have all these mystery ailments, and we don't go back to the plastic surgeon. I was going to for migraines and lower back specialists, and you don't go back, you don't realize there's a connection. And I said, I'm just telling you guys, I tell every doctor I see now that here's all these symptoms, and both of them had no idea.
Oh yeah, I even had tooth sensitivity that went away after my implants came out. So I went to the dentist, and of course they like laid me down and they're like, oh, we have on record, that you had somebody back here, how's that? I said, I removed my breast implants and it stopped. They're like, like sat me back up. I'm sorry, what did you say? Yeah, remove those toxic breast implants. And they're like, the dentist was like, how long did you have them? He's thinking like 3 years. And I was like, 22. What? And I was like, yeah, and he's like, wow. So that just really like impacts every part of your body. I'm like, yeah, there's things that I never would have associated with my breast implants. It isn't considered a breast implant illness symptom, but I noticed that had gone away after I had removed my breast implant.
Wow. Wow.
I couldn't ride roller coasters. If I, like I said, we go to, Orlando, every time I rode a roller coaster, I had really bad vertigo and I felt like I was going to throw up. And of course I'm thinking I'm just old.
Yes.
Yeah. So then about 6 months after I got my implants out, my friend wanted to go to Universal and she wanted to ride the big roller coaster. It just goes like this. And I was like, so I'm like, please don't let me puke. Don't let me ruin my rest of my day. I got off of that damn thing. I felt like I never rode it. And I was like, what? I'm like, wow, they must have just messed up my neck so bad. And that's why I still have my implants, and anybody who wants to come over and feel them, I'm like, feel how heavy they are. I mean, 1.3 pounds a piece they weigh. Yeah. That's pulling on a delicate neck. And even in my post-surgical report, Dr. Barnett had written in there that my ribs up here were flattened from the years of pressure because I had, think about it. I mean, they're sitting on that, your bones are kind of squishy in a way. And so she was like, take deep breaths, push that out eventually. But she's like, yeah, your ribs are flattened up here. So I'm like, these are things that, your heart and lungs are under there. Yes. And I had horrible breathing issues after I got them bigger. That was when the breathing really started to happen and my face would turn purple in a kickboxing class. And it's all because of the weight, it's just pressed. I was terrible.
I remember the first time I heard somebody say, think about it. You're putting them on top of your lungs and your heart is they're right on top of them. All these vital organs. I know. Yep. It's awful.
Yep. And then
it's like hair color. I mean, look at hair color, and I'm guilty of it clearly. But hair color, as soon as you find out how I can stay, not looking gray and 57, I'll do it. But hair color is like one of the worst things. Your brain's right there.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm the same way. I have to have, even though I have like turned my home into a green home, because I didn't know what was happening to me, and I changed all of the products, and I try to buy the best, like foundations and stuff. I like to buy, mineral type stuff. Eyeshadows, lipstick that I'm not going to be consistent in wearing, I really don't care. But the one thing I will not give up is my hair color. I feel like we all have to have some vices somewhere. And I figured if I've taken all the rest of this stuff out and I'm trying to, be a little bit more cautious on what I put inside of my body, well, then maybe I can afford it, hopefully.
I know. I hope I get away. I'm hoping I get away with my hair coloring. I'm like, oh God, I do feel like it affects me for like a week or so after I color it. I feel like, I don't know if that's psychological, I don't know if it's all in my head. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to share? Anything we haven't touched on?
I don't know. I don't think so. We just talked about my, some of my symptoms and everything, and like I said, I'm just trying to do my due diligence as a good human and trying to tell my story. And you never know who it's going to impact. I'm sure people on my Facebook are sick and tired of hearing about, some of the posts. I really don't try to post too much, but because we were doing that fashion show and, she wanted like before and after pictures, that was when I was like, you know what? I am finally going to do the body pictures. Like I was always waiting to get to the point where I got to a level with my weight that people were like, holy crap, that was you, and so anyway, I think I kind of achieved that, so I was like, okay, I'm willing to, because I know that, the pictures like that help me,
Yeah.
Is there anybody else out there that's having rapid weight gain or something and they don't really know what it is, and maybe it can touch on somebody, who knows?
Yeah. And then I get messages from men too. I have all those symptoms and I don't have breast implants. Well, do you have dental? Do you have, like, my friend has a chin implant. Do you have cheek implants? Do you have pecs, calves? Do you have a pacemaker? Hip replacement, knee replacement, you can react to anything. It could be anything.
I know, and I am so terrified. I would need like a knee replacement at some point.
I know.
I'm going to lose my side. I do not want anything else in this body, especially something that's made out of titanium or whatever the heck is made. I do not, no way, especially after watching.
Is she frozen on everyone's end or just mine?
End.
Oh, you froze on me. Maybe it was
You
only
froze on me.
Am I frozen now?
That's why I was like, oh,
All right. I think are we both unfrozen, or is one of us still frozen?
no, I don't think we're frozen anymore.
Well, so you're up and running, and so am I, and spreading the word.
That's all we can do. Try to save some other people maybe, or try to, you never know who you're gonna, some people may not have implants, but you never know. They may have a niece, a daughter, a granddaughter who needs to hear the story.
So who's going to be on this nonprofit Catwalks and Confidence? Can anybody come and be on this if they're in Florida or whatever?
Well, yeah. The tickets, I think I posted links on my page, for the tickets to buy, to go to it. And then there's about 5 of us models that are, in there. So yeah, it's go for a good cause. It's help to support my dear friend. And, plus it's really cool that Maria is going to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Great work, girls. Thank you for coming and sharing your story.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
All right.
Well, nice
we'll do an update. Yes, nice to meet you too. I'll see you on Facebook.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. See you later.
Bye-bye.